What's going on, people? Welcome to Mando's Football. You're here with myself, Guni, and Matisse. Still trying to work it out a little bit with Tony SW, aka Chelsea SW6. We still hope he can jump on with us. It's just we're having a bit of technical difficulties. He can't seem to get StreamYard to work through WhatsApp, so we're just trying to find the solution. But big up everybody that's been waiting patiently. We are a few minutes late, but yes, I am here for now with my guest Matisse. Like I said, hopefully Tony will be able to join us shortly. But Matisse, how are we doing? We've got a lot to discuss, bruv. Could be a very pivotal week if reports are to be believed in terms of the time frame for the takeover period.
Yeah.
But there's been a massive spanner in the works, if it's to be believed, that Roman Abramovich has U-turned on not wanting the 1.5 billion back, and has indeed said, yo, I need my money. What you man saying? So what and where does this leave this whole situation? Does this jeopardize Todd Boehly's whole situation with the takeover? Does this mean the American walks away and Jim Ratcliffe walks in to come and swoop in and save the day? Or is it completely that both of them walk away and we are stuck basically with our willy in our hands? Is that basically what's going on here?
Nah. I think a lot of fear mongering, a lot of scaremongering is going on. I think from what I've seen as well, the latest update was Todd Boehly was ready to put forward that money to Roman. Now I'm not sure how that's still going to work because the government don't want Roman to take any money out of this sale, but that came with a little 6% drop off for Clear Lake in terms of their ownership from 66% to 60%. So, you know, if that report's true, then it's not really holding up things too much. I mean, from everything that I'm seeing in reports, Todd Boehly's consortium is still moving with this, and they're just taking it step by step and getting the process sorted. So I don't really expect anything to be held up. I don't in terms of we're not gonna get to a point where I think at the end of May, which is our deadline for the license, where we still don't have an owner. I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm pretty calm, to be honest. I'm not worried about any of this. I think it's just a lot of tick for tack. Roman, potentially does want his piece. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's going to have to be sorted out between him and the government how that happens. But that can even be hopefully dealt with after the sale. So I don't think it's gonna be a situation that messes us up for much longer.
So in the long run, well, because I was kind of suspecting the fact that it was fear mongering. Tony has actually joined us, but Tony, we're just talking about this whole situation with Roman potentially asking for this. Well, he has asked for the 1.5 billion back, but I was just saying to Matisse, Matisse was just saying it sounds more like scaremongering rather than actually anything concrete. And us Chelsea fans, we do get the wrong end of the stick all the time with the media, so I'm not really too surprised with that. But is there anything more about this situation that whether this will affect us going forward?
What you have to do is at all times obviously take what the media say with a pinch of salt. We all know they're going to make up 75% of it, and there may be an element, a bit of truth here, a bit of truth, and of course they'll expand on everything. Let's be honest, for the last 3 months, we've been through, an incredible situation. We've never been out the news, and right now it's just another spanner they're throwing in, aren't they? It's sensationalising things once again. Look, the worst thing that can happen here is, I guess, and not that we want to go through this, but they'll just extend the special license, But you have to remember that all media worldwide is in the hands of 4 major corporations, and the CEOs are all the same people. So, listen, they've got an agenda. There's no investigative journalism that goes on anymore, you have to literally look at it. It's another story, isn't it? In the whole Chelsea saga. I'm one of those though that seriously leading to the whole thing where I think we've been completely and utterly under attack And I think the whole thing's been full of total and utter hypocrisy. Total hypocrisy. And without going over old ground, because I've just been on Lee's channel, basically putting my 10 pence worth in, just basically outlining that, you know, if you actually look at it really, there's two things that Roman Abramovich is guilty of, according to the press. The first thing is that he's Russian, and the second thing is that he's got links with Vladimir Putin, although they've never actually ever gone out and proved that factor. But what do we know? We know he's a peace negotiator, someone that actually got himself poisoned for the trouble. He's putting all of his income to the victims of the Ukraine. You have to look at a person. I mean, look, if you're going to have a moral compass in life, you have to have a moral compass which covers all bases across all things. Yeah, you can't pick and choose what's okay and what's not okay just because it fits the narrative. You know, it's pathetic, really. You've got a British government that has taken oligarchs' money, 6 donations, Boris Johnson, since he's been, in power as a prime minister, from Russian oligarchs. You've got the Chancellor of the Exchequer, you know, taking 13 million pound dividends off a Russian company. It's all hypocrisy, yeah. Saudi Arabia is okay right now because we need their oil, and yet you look at the moral compass on that one, and you can go further and further and further with it all. It's an absolute out and out joke. I mean, the only thing now we've got to look. What's incredible about all of this actually is if you look at when they first took away the British government his visa, and there was talk about him selling the club. You've got now the same two people that at that time were putting in bids or showing an interest in owning the football club. So now what we've got is it narrowed itself down to 3. We've got Todd Boehly, which looks a pretty decent. Let's be fair, seems to be on point with every single situation that Chelsea were asking for. And then of course you got Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and I mean, let's be honest, that either or. They're both pretty strong, aren't they? Really, I don't think we're in bad shape. I just think this has all been totally and utterly unnecessary.
Sensationalized, really, innit?
It's been horrendous, and here we go again. You know, but listen. From my perspective, if I was Roman Abramovich, I mean, surely at some point, I mean, let's assume, right, okay, that he negotiates peace, right, between the two nations, right, okay, and let's say things get sorted out. Well, surely we're not going to have sanctions with Russia forever and a day, are we? But
no.
Let's say things get sorted out, then surely he's going to want what's his back, yeah? So he's talking about the 1.5 billion, which, let's have it right, it was always his money, which was loaned to us as a company. He's allowing the club to be sold and for the money to be distributed, you know, as and where. But with regards to the actual money that he personally loaned to the club himself, right, he's entitled to say, well, all right now I can't have it, but can it be put in an account and it can be frozen until it comes to the point when perhaps I can get what is mine back,
which is reasonable. Do you know what I mean?
It's totally reasonable, isn't it? Yeah, but of course, you know, when it comes to Chelsea right now, it's like everybody else can do whatever they want, and all the emphasis is on our football club. And our supporters, we're the ones in the middle, aren't we, really? Because we get
the brunt of it, man. We get the brunt of it, especially when, you know,
it's clearly affecting us now, isn't it, as a football club now? No one can say it's not. You know,
a conclusion has to be drawn, and I think, you know, regardless of whatever side you're on, I think most Chelsea fans in unison are going to say we need a conclusion soon, because we're coming to, the end of May is coming pretty fast, and apparently from what I'm seeing, there's penalties if we don't get this situation sorted, and one of those, don't know how true this is apparently we won't be able to compete in the Premier League next season if we don't get it sorted.
It's just rubbish, though.
Get to that extreme, will it?
If it ever got to that point, listen, they've made an absolute, you know, pig's ear of this, the British government. Let's be honest, right? When it comes to May the 31st, they'll be eager. Listen, if we're in a stalemate situation, they will reopen that license so we can continue trading. Let's put it that way, yeah. But this will get wrapped up, guys. Yeah, this is just, you know, 100%. We're just coming to the ends of the whole process. Yeah, and thank goodness, you know, I just want to get this season over and done with. Hopefully with a cup final win.
You know,
but And what we're seeing right now, I was watching the football series the other day actually, and they were trying to work out what's gone wrong with our form right now and what are the reasons and everything else. And I'm a massive believer in the power of the mind and psychology, yeah, and the subconscious mind and everything else. And if you think about it logically, those players are in a Thomas Tuchel bubble, all of them, right? From the moment the sanctions and all the chit chat about Chelsea, so he was in a protective bubble, right? And then those players went off to that pointless international break, right? And they've gone out of the bubble, right? Okay, and that's like either over to Dubai or friends and family or international duty. And just like us as supporters, let's be honest, it's been really stressful, isn't it? You know, because other fans take the piss, other players are going to take the piss, their agents are going to get in their ribs all of a sudden. And once the genie's out of the bottle, but on anything like this, right, it's very hard to put back. And it's no coincidence that we're a former shadow of ourselves, aren't we? I mean, Brentford, smashed, Arsenal smashed. Tuchel put us back together for Southampton, and then they went the whole emotional situation for that Madrid away game, and we're just limping over the line now. We're just hopefully those players are going to raise it in the cup final, but let's just get the season over.
I just want the season to be over at this
point.
But Matisse, another name that has been mentioned that looks like they're pretty much on the sideline is Jim Ratcliffe, the British billionaire, richest man in Britain. Is apparently interested in buying Chelsea. Now, I've just read that the Rain Group have dismissed his offer, but if Todd cannot get it over the line for whatever reason, then he would be able to step in with the offer that he's made. How would you feel about him taking over? And what do you know from what you've seen so far with him?
I don't even think he'd be able to take a position even if Todd doesn't get his bid, because remember, there's a process. And there's two other bidders that were in the final three, and according to reports, they would be then favoured as the next bidders. They're on standby. Martin Broughton and the other guy, the American consortium from Atalanta, their only Atalanta team. So they're all waiting on the fringes. I think it's more Broughton that's waiting in the wings, and his bid will then be looked at again if Todd Boehly doesn't get over the line. So I don't even think Jim Ratcliffe is even in the hat, even if that fails. Obviously, it gives him a bigger chance, but I'm pretty sure Rain Group have just confirmed that they're going to be turning it down regardless, and there's very little hope of that. With Jim, he's come into this way too late. He's come into this process way too late. The process started in, March? Yeah. And he's come in now at the last 11th hour to try and piece together some sort of half-baked bid. Everybody sees the money, but where's his team in terms of operations? Because he says, and it's quite clearly reported, he's not going to be running the club day to day. So who's going to be running operations? Who's going to be in what position? He hasn't, up until the last couple of days, met up with the supporters groups and Paul Canaville, etc. So it's been a very slapdash late bid. Now, I don't know if that was on purpose, because maybe there were reports of Rain Group having favoritisms with certain groups like the Ricketts, etc., and then they obviously had to pull out because of their own little issue with shares and whatnot. So maybe he waited until that was all over before he could submit. But I don't really know where it's coming from, unless he is a friend of somebody on the board or Roman, etc., and has been given, some sort of go ahead to try and push through a late move because of his connections. But it's quite puzzling as to why a billionaire would want to make his bid so public and then lose so publicly as well, so quickly. It doesn't really add up. So it's strange. But for me, I'm still preferring Todd Boehly, because from an operational standpoint, I at least can see what they're trying to do. The finances of it, obviously, with Clear Lake are not great in terms of their 66% cut, but I think people blow it out of proportion when they talk about Chelsea are not going to spend big anymore. Chelsea have not been spending big for like the last 4 years. We have literally we've been balancing the books on transfers. 10 years, exactly. We've been balancing the book on transfers. We've been selling to buy. Yeah,
one in, one out, one in,
Literally, everything is balanced. So all of the debt that we've accumulated has come from the beginning, when we were really splashing and just throwing money at everybody. And obviously the first 10 years where we were chasing that Champions League. So I think that's blown out of proportion. So for people to be so scared and worried about a more self-sustainable model where we actually do watch what we spend, I think it's quite wise, considering when we do spend a lot of money, we tend to spend it quite poorly. So that's why I'm more interested in operations, recruitment, and actually scouting properly and getting a proper model in. And if there is Clear Lake who are looking to make profit in 10 years time and they want to sell the club, sell their portion, for a profit, if we're successful, then, if they want to make a profit, we have to be successful. We're not a team that bring in ridiculous amounts of revenue. We're not Manchester United. We're not Real Madrid. In order for us to make a lot of money, we have to go far in competitions. We have to do well. So they'll know that. And I think that's probably already been discussed. So I'm not particularly freaking out over it. I'm still pretty happy with who's been chosen, to be honest.
One topic I wanted to discuss before we come on to matters on the pitch is the whole development of the stadium. There's obviously the whole no one wants to leave Stamford Bridge, which honestly to me I don't think it'll be the end of the world, but again, I wouldn't mind staying at the Bridge. Obviously that's home, you get me. But in terms of
can I just say something on that though, Guni, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think though that whole situation there with regards to Stamford Bridge, right? It's a bit like Trigger's broom, isn't it? Right, in Only Fools and Horses, where he gets a medal, doesn't he, from Councillor Roberts for having the same broom for 20 years, and then he announces he's had 20 heads and 25 handles, right? Yeah, classic line, right? So when people say, right, well, at least we're in the same place, we are flattening the whole thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a completely new...
right. Yeah. So, this is the whole thing about it, right? It's such a complicated club, don't you think? You've got CPO, obviously, with the shares and everything else, right? So, in effect, you've got, 18,000, is it, people that won't move no matter what, right? Okay. So it doesn't matter what, even if it makes commercial sense, right? And then, of course, Stamford Bridge, you've got so many issues, you know that, attached. You know the reason why it's never got to the planning stage, right? Before that, what was it? The Swiss guys that think built the bird cage, didn't they, in Beijing?
Yeah.
Those guys, every feasibility study, right, failed because of the... there's only one exit point, which, as we know, is the Fulham Road, right? There's an issue, an old bylaw that goes back to God knows how long, where you can't go over and above the height of St. Paul's Cathedral. Did you know that? I swear down, right?
Didn't know that.
There's also issues, right, okay, regarding the back part, and it's rather interesting, right? This is why Boehly's bid was so poignant, right, okay, because he was so on point with everything. Because he turned up and he went, it wasn't just saying we're going to develop the ground, this is how much money we've got to put aside towards. He was basically saying, right, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right, but I've always felt like, okay, there should be an argument for both sides, yeah. I'm not just saying, because you speak to most of the old school, they'll want to stay put, blah blah blah. It's a very divided subject, like, but look, go on, sorry buddy, I just wanted to
I just wanted to touch on that before we moved on to matters on the pitch. So obviously I always emphasize this before we touch on the topic of transfers, players in, players out. Obviously, the situation with the ownership is paramount. That must be sorted out first before we can start thinking of this. But that doesn't mean that plans are not still in the works. Just because there's a takeover situation happening doesn't mean day-to-day footballing operations just cease. The club still need to plan for the future. And coming with that has been a few stories of some of our players who are rumored to be leaving Chelsea Football Club, some of them with very short term length on their contracts. And the players in question are actually Azpilicueta, Marcos Alonso, Jorginho, Emerson Palmieri, and to some who may not like it, Christian Pulisic. So that's 5 players that could be potentially out of the door from Chelsea Football Club with actual feasible interest, with clubs actually interested in taking these players. Now, before we get on to, you know, potential replacements and that, I just wanted to ask the two of you your thoughts on those 5 players leaving.
I'm fine with it. I think it depends on the player. Obviously, Azpilicueta, Chelsea legend. You know, he deserved to be carried off that pitch. He's done immense stuff at Chelsea. You know, he's been ridiculously consistent in about 3 or 4 different positions over his time. And if it does come to an end because he wants to make that World Cup squad with Spain and he wants to start regularly with Barcelona, and he, you know, there's definitely arguments to say that for modern football, what we need from a fullback, Azpi probably can't give us that. Then fair enough. Do you know what I'm saying? He should be carried off. Players like Emerson, you know, I'm not going to lose any sleep at night. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we do need a little bit of a shake-up. We do need to lose quite a few players and try and bring through some of these lone players as well that have been doing very well, like Conor Gallagher, like Levi Colwell. We need to make space for those players because they're very promising. I think Chelsea, they've had it a bit backwards over the last few years. If we're looking at a self-sustainable model, you've got the academy right there that is there to literally boost your team, give you that great depth, give you that quality, and then you can sprinkle it on top with good signings. But I think what they've ended up doing for a lot of these players is they've ended up selling them last summer for money that now would have been doubled, tripled, quadrupled one summer on, because the valuation is only going to go up. They've ended up losing money really on these players and being ripped off, and then they've signed players for more money than they should pay from a wage perspective and from a transfer fee, and they're not working out. So I think for Tuchel to do well, you saw what happened with Klopp and Pep. They got whole new teams, and it's not going to happen over one window, but over the next few summers we need to be, you know, fleshing out this team and bringing in players with a sporting director that Tuchel style of football suits, instead of asking yet again another manager to work with players that are not his. I had statistics prior to this, but this squad is made up of, you know, Sarri, Conte, Di Matteo, one player from Di Matteo, Lampard also, all of their teams. And if you look at Klopp and Pep, obviously they've been there for longer. They've been able to rotate everybody out. Literally, all players but 2 is Pep's, and all players but 1 is Klopp's, and 1 might be Rodgers. I had the exact statistics, but I got rid of them. But that's what we're up against. We're up against teams. You look at Liverpool last night; they're not playing well in the first half. They respond by bringing on players that fit the system. They walk straight into the team and they do the business. And Diaz, whenever we bring players into the team, we have to change formation. We have to change our approach because these players don't really fit the same style that we were playing before. And now you're asking a manager who's had to play the majority, well, he's had to have the most games this season because we were involved in 7 competitions. You're asking him to coach multiple formations and different styles for different playing profiles when he hasn't really got the time to do that, because we've not had one break. Because remember, we didn't get a break for COVID. We've not had one break outside of an international break since August. Not 1 week to train. Every single week we've had midweek games outside of international break because we're playing so many games. So that's the situation. So for me, I'm always going to put Chelsea over any individual player. You know, it's their job. They come in, they do their job, and then they go. There's very little loyalty in football. Probably in this squad, you could probably say Mason Mount, maybe Reece James, a couple of players max, Azpilicueta, not many. So for me, it's like if we need to get rid of players to you know, give a little bit of room for Tuchel to bring him who he needs, then get it done.
Tony, you agree with Matisse, or you see things a little different?
No, absolutely agree with what Matisse is saying. Spot on. I think everyone's up for grabs, let's be honest. I think one of the things which they also liked about Todd Boehly was the fact that he's very data driven, and Liverpool's whole basis is based on data, where they buy. They don't just buy a player because he's brilliant and he's banging in goals, or he's a fantastic player, or whatever. They buy players that fit their system, and it's very noticeable. We won the Champions League really with Reece James and Ben Chilwell, either flank, playing a very rigid 3 at the back. Do you know what I mean? Like system, and everything fitted. And of course, we lost those 2 players for massive parts of the season, and look what happened. We can all see the results, and we know that that's our preferred system, very much a Tuchel system. But every player, if you think about it logically, that we try to bring in, or as you say, it's a mixture of different managers down the years. Yeah, you've got to find players that kind of fit as a chick. You know, that's the right. This is the way we're playing. Right, okay, this guy's a speedy player. You know, he's a player that can work between. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, Christian Pulisic, I noticed, is his father? Is he putting out tweets right now? He's certainly putting it out there, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, so that's you know, there's no smoke without fire on that one. Listen, I look at Pulisic and I think he spends more time injured. Great player. I think if it's Boehly that wins the bid, I would have thought they'd like to keep him from an American perspective, shirt selling and all that sort of stuff. I thought that would have been a plus. But, you know, I wouldn't be too fussed. He's a great player when he's on form, same as Ziyech. You know, it's another player that's, for me, hasn't done enough. Even Werner hasn't done enough.
Hot and cold.
It's just so. There's very few actually, really. I you know, like you say, Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, definitely Reece James. On the players that you've mentioned
as well,
and Kovacic, for me, the midfield gets built around Kovacic. He's my preferred six. If you're talking about the six, he's the six. I think Kante's playing below par at the moment, but then he's being paired up with players that doesn't really fit him either. And you have to look at it and go, even the Romelu Lukaku one, really, doesn't really make sense, really, unless you fit a system around Romelu or play to his strengths. Listen, he's not a shit player, right? You don't score goals like that in Serie A and play for a manager like Antonio Conte, right? Because you're shit, right? Yeah. It's just we're playing a completely different system. And, you know, it seems to me as if you've got to get those. It's like a jigsaw when you're building a jigsaw. So Azpilicueta, as you say, an absolute legend in his own right, but he hasn't got the pace to play loads of games and up and down that pitch as a right back.
Slowly becoming an Ivanovic situation, and I don't want that.
Yes. So you know, shame about Christensen and Antonio Rudiger, but it is what it is. That's why we need it all settled so we can bring in a Kundi or whatever it is. We need quality, you know, in those positions. We know that Thiago Silva, you know, he's not going to play every game. He's, you know, at his age, etc. Who's the other players you mentioned in that?
Jorginho.
Jorginho.
Well, Jorginho's talking about Italy now, isn't he? And he's tired looking. He's gassed out, in my opinion. He was playing lots of games in the season when we had loads of injuries. Slightly injured himself. So maybe he's over exuberated himself this season. And maybe it's time to push on there. Maybe, you know, maybe so. I think everyone, as far as I'm concerned, is up for grabs. As you say, Matisse, we've got Conor Gallagher to come back into the fold. He's a great player. Lots of bags and bags of energy. He could certainly fit Tuchel's system. We've got the kid at Southampton, the striker.
Bro, yeah.
We got first dibs on Tammy Abraham as well. You know, we could go back on that one because we got the first take on him, haven't we?
It's a lot of money. 80 million for him. I think the buyback.
The rumor is you're looking at Darwin Núñez, but so are so many other clubs as well.
Well, Havertz is not an out-and-out striker, is he? Right? We know he can play it, but he's not a 60-game a season. You know,
you definitely need another option for sure. You need 100%. To have. I mean, we have so many games. Otherwise, these guys. My biggest issue is that the key players in this team, and some of them are getting older, have not been able to be rotated like Jorginho, like Kante, like Thiago Silva. Even though they're getting a year older, we haven't brought in enough quality behind them to be able to take them out of the team. And then their performances look even worse and they're even more, you know, error prone. So, you know, you only have to look back to middle of the season. We had so many injuries, all these COVID cases. We didn't have any striker up top. I think the midfield at one point was playing Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Saul in a pivot at Watford. And then one of them got injured, or, you know, Trevor got injured when he got moved into midfield. It was just a mess. So
Brentford away in the cup was a miracle. Yeah. We won that game, really, when you think about it. But, you know, we've had a lot of our, you know, dodgy cards played our way, haven't we? You know, as a football club this year, it's been a difficult one, isn't it? You know, we just need to get through this now, get over that line.
Yeah. No,
two wins.
I have to agree, and I think if those players do indeed go, there's the opportunity for, and I want to be careful how I use this word, a rebuild. Although I do think if we spend wisely, um, I think we can improve certainly the football from what we've seen this season under this manager. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna expect us to come back and win a Premier Champions League and all of that stuff. This stuff will take time. But at the same time, if Thomas Tuchel is being backed and his targets are being bought, then it's that time where we've now got to start raising the expectations of Thomas Tuchel as well. But I'm not too worried because with this manager, in my opinion, from what I've seen, you see a lot of us have had a reality check. The fact that we're still sitting in third place now is an absolute miracle. And we're in a cup final still. With all things considered. So I definitely think we're in good hands. But in terms of replacement, Matisse, outside of the obvious ones, like, you know, the Levi Colwell's coming into the teams and the Koundés who we've been linked to since, you get me, 19, how long, fam? Long time ago. What other targets would you like to see potentially coming in the club? Realistic ones, considering the outs that have been mentioned. Because, you know, let's say hypothetically we're still going with the whole 1 in, 1 out sort of thing. Who would you kind of bring in?
We do need a forward who can dribble. I looked at our dribbling statistics today. They're really, really bad. I think Loftus-Cheek leads in dribbles, and it's something like 35 dribbles completed or something, and he leads the charts. A couple of years ago, it would have been a Hazard on like 112 or 119. So it's ridiculous the fact that we have no dribblers, and all our dribblers actually are midfield. It's Loftus-Cheek, it's Kovacic, it's Mason Mount, who's had a few, even Kante when he bursts through the midfield. There's no dribblers really out on the wing. And when you look at the way that we struggle to get past low blocks, it's obviously because of poor finishing. It's obviously because of a lack of incisive passing with a real, you know, elite level playmaker. But it's also the lack of dribbling and the lack of a player to actually take another player out of the game. Once you do that, or once you are even a clear threat with dribbling, they tend to double up on you. That creates more space in the middle. It creates more space out on the other flank. The amount of times, and obviously Hazard's a crazy comparison because he's obviously unique. You're not going to replace him.
Yeah, exactly.
But the amount of people that doubled up on Eden Hazard, the amount of space it afforded us on the other side was ridiculous. It just opened up so much room. So that's something we need to look at. We need a dribbler. People say Pulisic is our dribbler. He's not consistently on the football pitch. I need somebody who's going to be playing and starting consistently, not someone who has a great goal against Palace in the first game of the season and he's missing for 2 months, comes back. It's every single season we're talking about this. Same with Ziyech. You know, he gets injured every so often. We got a lot of players that are pretty injury prone and they miss pretty big chunks of the season, and then you can't expect chemistry and, you know, some sort of continuation of form. I always say this: if you're not consistently fit, you can't be on form. You can't be. It's not possible because you're always injured. So how are you going to be consistently on form? They're already going to be inconsistent as individuals like Pulisic because he's young, let alone adding injuries to that as well. So I think that's an issue. I am warming up to Dembele, but I don't really see how, you know, Barcelona let him go with the form he's in at the moment. This is a player.
Well, I think with that, it's sort of out of their hands, to tell you the truth. Barcelona. Yeah.
When it comes to Dembele, my concerns are not gone. The fact that, you know, his injuries history is not great. He hasn't been injured in a while, but he has got an injury history. I would be worried about having him and Pulisic in the same squad, and then, you know, if a couple go down, we're pretty screwed. But he is a great dribbler. He is both footed as well. He's a proper winger in that sense. So we have to look at the free agents. We have to start trying to look at that market as well. If we're talking about an overhaul of a squad, we can't expect a new ownership to come in and splash down 250 million net. You know, you have to look at sales, but also taking advantage of the free market. Not massively keen on Dybala because I'm just not sure of his position. And again, we've got Kai and we've got Ziyech, and they're already left footers that want to occupy that space. I do like Nkunku at Leipzig as well. And I mentioned Gabriel Jesus the other day because there's 3 forwards at Man City that expire in 2023. There's Gabriel Jesus, there's Sterling, there's Mahrez. Now,
all 3 of them walk into our team.
They all walk into our team, but they're all Premier League proven. You know, they're all Premier League proven. They're all playing in possession-based teams under Pep. they're all, well, Gabriel Jesus is going to press from the front for sure. That's something that's been an issue with Lukaku, is the fact that he's not going to counter press with us. Sterling will work hard, I'm sure, if told to as well. And, Gabriel Jesus in particular, Mahrez will be then thereafter on good wages. I think Mahrez is on 110. Gabriel Jesus is on around about 110 as well. Sterling's on crazy money. So maybe that's not good for the wage bill. But we just got to be a bit smart and look at these things. And like I said, for me, one of my first choice targets is Tchouaméni and DM, because 100%. If I look at that midfield, it needs a revamp. Kovacic has been the best midfielder at this club on a consistent basis for years. He won Player of the Year under Frank Lampard. And then this season, he's been better than Kante and Jorginho as well. Kante and Jorginho were great in the Champions League last year for that run of knockout games in the 8 games. But in the Premier League, they were just decent. Hence why we finished 4th, and we needed a Gareth Bale hat-trick or whatever it was to put us over the line.
Yeah.
If you look at them consistently over the course of a whole season, they're not performing to world-class levels. I have to ask people every time, when was the last time Kante or Jorginho were up for Player of the Year at Chelsea? It hasn't happened. It's been Kova, Mason Mount, and this season it will be a defender. Most likely as well. So I think that we need to rejuvenate that area. And I always look at Mikel and Matic and these players. They're great in possession. They pick up the ball off the back four. They're great with that, but they also are mobile. They also win their aerial duels. You look at Fabinho, you look at Rodri. This is the kind of option we need. So I think Tchouaméni, he's a player that I've been looking at for years, and he's been back-to-back top performances in League R, which is a good indicator for Premier League, because it's quite a physical.
Yeah, his consistency is ridiculous.
Very consistent
as well.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Tony, obviously Tchouaméni, he's one of my favorite targets. In fact, considering now, this is the thing. The only reason why I put him as my out-and-out favorite is because of his price tag, and it brings me on to the next player. Obviously, Cobham, ex-Cobham boy Declan Rice over at West Ham.
Yeah, I'm going to mention him. Yeah.
Yeah, they're asking for anything north of 150 M's, which I don't think a club is going to.
They're not going to get that, are they?
Yeah,
it's just scare people off. But what you got to look at is, it's all very well them doing that. You just have to look at the very, very factor that 3 times he's failed to sign a new deal with them. So clearly, he isn't going to stay. He doesn't want to stay, does he? Yeah. He wants to. The guy. He wants to come back to Chelsea. Let's be honest. That's his real destination. He wants to be near his mate. Mason Mount and play for Chelsea, and it's one of those, isn't it? It's another one we let go stupidly, that we're going to have to buy back for top dollar. We've been there before, haven't we? I also think you can't discount experience. I mean, I feel this season we would have been in a better position had we kept Olivier Giroud. I think Giroud would have poked a lot of those balls that were flashing through past the box, or one-on-ones with a keeper where for some reason we just can't dink it over. Or
I'll tell you this for free, Tony. You see that Lukaku missed it against Real Madrid. Giroud bang on putting that top bins 100%.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Obviously Tchouaméni's another one, as you say, as a player that we've been linked with for a while. Foden we were linked with as well, weren't we? I get the Mahrez one as well. As you say, he's Premier League proven and his quality. And I think I think coming to Chelsea would be a good move for him. Listen, we're going to have to spend in this window and do 100%. Something that we haven't done for a while. I'm not just talking about balancing the books or whatever, but we're going to need Marina, if she stays, if she's part of the fixtures and fittings, on her A game, because she's going to have a big job on her hands, And this is why we need the club now to be kind of sold so we can start looking to, because it can't come soon enough, really. We have to get in here. We have to do what we've done that season when we went out and bought Cesc Fabregas and Diego Costa.
Yeah.
Really early. Set, that sort of thing. But, when you look at Chelsea players in the past, Chelsea teams in the past, we had a lot of experience. You think about it. Ballack, Deco, Mikel, Didier, JT. I mean, they're all, at the right ages, weren't they? Or coming towards the 30 mark. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
You cannot write that off. And I just feel we haven't got any leaders, man. We need a leader, someone that's gonna, get us by the scruff of the neck when we really, really need it most. I'm not saying that Azpi hasn't done all he's needed to do. He's quality, we know that, yeah. But you know what I'm saying? A sort of JT type character.
He's also not always on. He's also not always on the pitch as well, which doesn't help. You know.
No, he's not. That's right. You need an ever present, don't you? You need a player that's always going to play. He gets picked regardless. You know, he's on that team sheet, and that's, you know, you need to base that, I guess, around, you know, around that sort of situation. But I don't know. You know, whatever happens, we're gonna have to spend big.
100%.
We really are, and we're gonna have to release big as well. You know, listen, if we get 60 mil or 70 mil for Lukaku, take it. If we get, I'm just surmising it, guys. You know, if you get 40 mil for Pulisic, take it. We get 35 million for
Here's my concern.
Take it.
This is my massive concern, right? Is these players, I think there will be offers for them, but is if Marina Granovskaya is still sitting on that table and she wants to over negotiate certain players' prices, because let's have it right, she's got a history of doing this. There was an opportunity at one stage. Inter Milan wanted to pay 40 million euros for Marcos Alonso. That was the opportunity to sign him. She said no because she held out for more. You see what I mean? So my question is now is
Alonso, though, it's always been his wages. He's on top dollar as Marcos Alonso. That puts clubs off, you know.
Yeah.
Look at Marcos Alonso. He's on top dollar.
That's also true. So it's going to be.
So I quite like her, Marina Granovskaya. I think if you look at what we get in terms of loan payments, it's like a transfer every season, isn't it? A big transfer, like a player being sold, you know. You know, and we are lucky. We got some great players, you know, that are returning to us. So
if you had the choice, though, right? This new ownership's come in and they're saying to us, right, look, Marina's only going to stay for 1 year. Or you could have her for the entirety, right? But you had to choose between Marina and somebody like what's that guy's name? Is it Paul Mitchell? Or Paul? Yeah, Paul Mitchell. Which one would you lean towards? Would you keep Marina or go more for the Paul Mitchell sort of model?
Well, she won Director of the Year, didn't she?
She did, but my thing is that look, as much
she's seen as a top negotiator, right? Okay, all around Europe, yeah. I don't think she'll stay anyway because she's always been Roman's right hand girl, if you like, you know.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't think she'll stay anyway, right? But it makes sense to me to keep continuity. You can't just rip everything. You've got to keep.
I agree.
I think it would be risky to get rid of her immediately because she's got contacts, she's got experience with negotiations, etc. My biggest issue with her is that some of these contracts that we're talking about for players that we are going to find hard to shift, you know, Werner on 270k a week, Chilwell on 190k on his first Chelsea contract, sanctioning Saul on loan 200k a week. We talk about Alonso's wage. She signed that off. You know, all of these contracts that are on, we have the second highest wage bill in the league, but yet we're nowhere near the title race. It doesn't make sense. But only second to Manchester United, who are thankfully run even worse. She signed off on those contracts, and that is part of negotiating. So that's where I have a lot of critique there for that, because I don't understand how. Like, I looked at Werner's wage at Leipzig. How did he go from 120k a week to 270? How did Chilwell go from below 100 at Leicester?
It's probably because
it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. But then 50 million at the time for him, it seemed like a snip, didn't it? I mean, we got Werner. You know, it was like he was. I don't know about you, but I really wanted him. I was buzzing when we got him. You know. And this is back to the data, isn't it? You know, where I feel you still have to make players earn their money. You know, I feel like you got to incentivize them to make more money by performing in our shirt. If you just put them on that money, I don't know where there is to go after that. You know, what new contract do you get after that? So what about N'Golo Kante? He's probably the highest paid player in the club.
Yeah,
he gets one good game out of 3 now. He's not the N'Golo last season, is he?
Yeah, it's true.
No, but at least you can say of Kante is that he's delivered a title, he's been here, he's worked his way up that structure, and he earns that wage. Whereas the others have just come in immediately on that wage, and it doesn't make much sense to me. I think for me, we have to get a sporting director. I think when you look at the rumors of, you know, potentially looking at selling Reece James for 25 million to Palace after he came back from Wigan, and Lampard had to block it. You look at the way that we bring in players, they don't really match any sort of system or style. We just kind of bring in players and names, and then we kind of try and put them together. It doesn't really make any sense. For me, you got to at least move her to a different role and get that sporting director in, that Tiki, that Michael Edwards, that Luis Campos, these kind of names where they work. Their job is to literally align style with the manager, and not even with the manager. Their job is to set a style throughout the club from top to bottom, bring in players that match that, and the managers will then match that style as well. And then it runs from top to bottom, instead of every single time we hire a manager, we buy all the players they want, and then when they leave, it doesn't make sense for the next manager. It makes no sense. And that's why we have a cluster of 3 or 4 different styles under one guy, and they don't make no sense.
Which is probably why we couldn't do the data thing, because we've never, our philosophy has been hire, fire, hire, fire. It's worked because 25 trophies, 25 years. It's a conveyor belt. It's a success, yeah. But most clubs, businesses don't work that way. In the real world, you have sustainability where it takes 2-3 years to build. Like Klopp, he's built a foundation of his own players, as you say, all data driven, where it's like, right, that's a player, he's left-sided, he can do that job, but he also can do that job, he will fit in there. What's his speed, what's his ratio, all that data is massive, really. I mean, that's, surely it makes sense, doesn't it? You don't buy something that's not going to fit your way of trying to play football.
They keep going down this route of club signings. So they scout Saul for 2 years, probably the worst form of his career the last 2 years. He said that himself. And then they bring him in for Tuchel, but they started scouting him under Lampard. Doesn't make any sense. You look at, I mean, that comment there, it's not realistic unless you don't get the names. Liverpool just purchased Diaz. Guess how much money he's on for the quality of player? 56,000 a week. That's what he's on. So you can't tell me that we can't bring in players. We're Chelsea. We are attractive. We are literally the biggest club in London. You can still bring in players without paying them stupid wages. The only problem you have is if you bring in players and you've already offered others stupid wages. So now when they come to negotiate, they are expecting to be getting good wages as well. They'll look to you and say, well, why is Ruben Loftus-Cheek on 150k? He's 4th choice midfielder. I start, so give me 190. That's where you get yourself into issue. That's why Marcus Rashford earns 250k. That's why Sancho earns 350. Because once you screw up your wage bill, you can't go back. And that's why Liverpool and the likes of Tottenham, who have a really low wage bill, they make sure that they don't go above a threshold. That's why this salary negotiation is taking so long, because they don't want to ruin their wage structure for one player, which is what we've already done. And we need to bring that back.
Yeah, I agree,
bring back.
It's a very delicate situation when you start breaking wage structures for that exact reasons. You end up just overpaying on players that should never. Danny Drinkwater's on how much? 120k.
Oh, mate. Well, you'll never get rid of him. I mean,
this is why we can't sell players, because they want too much money. That's why we can't sell
Bakayoko's another one, isn't it? Bakayoko.
They're stuck. But this is the thing. You see this summer coming up, and I believe the next are going to be key, because a lot of these players' contracts run out. Matisse, give me a reminder of some of the contracts running out next summer as well, because there's a real opportunity here to get this right.
Yeah. Jorginho 2023, Kante 2023, Ross Barkley, Marcus Alonso, Kennedy, I think Emerson. Who else is there? Babarahman should be as well. Drinkwater is this summer. Who else is there?
Well, that's good. That brings
quite a lot, though. Yeah, I think Billy Gilmore might have a year extension clause in it, so I don't think that's a big concern. And Purdue might be similar. I'm not sure, but those are some of the seniors. Those are some of the seniors there.
And imagine how much that frees up on the wage book.
Yeah, but that's why we need to capitalise on the named players out of that list.
Yeah,
surely we make. What's the point in giving him another contract? We may as well let Jorginho go now. I know that.
Absolutely.
That makes sense to let him go now, so we can make some money up from the sale, right? Next year, it's not worth it, right? Some of them you can let just run down, can't you, right? Because, or try and just...
Batshuayi as well. Batshuayi. What they need.
I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? 36 million we paid for Batshuayi. You know what I mean?
We rejected a £60 million offer from Dortmund when he had an incredible loan.
Ridiculous.
And then because we wanted 70 or something, or we rejected 50 because we wanted 60 or something like that, or 40 because we wanted 60, something like that. And now we still have
money.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
What we have
crazy.
to stop doing is giving extra years to these players that are running out of contracts. What we keep doing, and this is another problem with Marina, and maybe it's because, and maybe you have to also look at it that she's under Roman, and maybe Roman is getting tighter with the funds, so she has to act accordingly. Now under new ownership, you haven't spent all this money on these players. You can act in a different way that's a little bit more loose.
Well, this is why I'm saying, Matisse, you know, like, you can argue, right? Okay, although it's been an absolute nightmare, I personally wish it never happened and we still had Roman. But the reality is, right, okay, let's say we get Boehly in, right, okay, well, listen, we weren't ever talking about a new stadium. I don't think we ever was or ever would have. I don't even think it would have been up for a conversation for another 5 years. Probably not at all. Yeah. But now it's being addressed. And these guys, they're saying they're going to back, you know, they're going to back the club, right? You know, and money's not an option. And you have to look at who's, like you say, Clear Lake. Is it £60 billion they've got in part of their portfolio?
Billion, something like that.
Ridiculous equity. Dave.
Goldman Sachs as advisory is 1.3 trillion or whatever. You know, what I'm trying to say to you here, guys, is maybe things aren't that. Maybe it's the perfect timing for a takeover.
I think it could be.
Because
my next question. That was actually going to be my next question after I read this super chat. Big up this super chat. I'm not going to even try.
I'm going to have to go in a couple of minutes, mate.
Yeah,
I'm in the car, and my wife needs the car to take my daughter to guides.
We're going to end this in 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes left. I just wanted to.
That's all right, buddy.
Super chat. Marina's job is.
If I have to get out in a minute, you know why.
All right, cool. No Marina's job is to negotiate, not scout. If you bring in a sporting director, they don't do the negotiating. Marina will still do the negotiating.
Not quite correct. So if you look at sporting directors, they do negotiate as well. Their whole job is to make the club money as well. If you look at Campos, what he did at Lille and Monaco, he made the club money. He brought in these players that were very young, like Martial from Lyon, etc., and he sold them for massive profits. They can be involved in the negotiating of the contracts as well. Now you can put Mourinho just in that role as well, but as Tony said earlier, I think a lot of the press are getting onto the fact that if you're letting Roman go, you're probably letting go of people that have been working with him for 25 years plus as well. So that's why this Marina thing is difficult. And also, will Marina accept coming down in terms of job position, because she's been running the club from a day to day. Now you've got.
Well, she stays on.
Yeah,
if she stays on, Matisse, right? She's only staying on for a short period of time, isn't she?
Yeah.
So she's already meandering her way out of the job or the position for the benefit.
Most people don't like to drop in job position. You know, once you're giving someone power, now they got to take orders from someone else. This is not as easy as it sounds. Yeah. So I think it's too many cooks in the kitchen potentially as well. You got to possibly look at it like that. So it's a lot of people, because you know Bowie and Walter from Dodgers are going to want to run it from a day to day on operations. That's part of her job. You get a sporting director, they're going to want to run the philosophy, the style, the recruitment. So all there is left now for her is pure negotiations. It's not anywhere near the level of job she's done previously. So I don't know if she's really taking that personally. I don't think she is long term.
Petr Cech, though? Do you think Petr Cech?
Yeah, Petr Cech is another one, technical director.
Yeah, there's an opportunity. Hopefully he's been watching and learning. That's another name that I didn't bring up, but we'll obviously bring him up another day. But before you're both to go, I wanted to ask you. Obviously, none of us like the situation and how the club was forcibly taken from Abramovich. But
terrible.
Let's say hypothetically this situation didn't happen. Was the writing on the wall for Roman to be selling the club? Do you think that it was coming up to a time where a change of owner was needed anyway, given the direction the club was going? No league for 5 years, and we can't see where we're getting another one for a while. So that's why I asked that question. I'll start with you, Tone, real quick, and then we'll go to
okay. As soon as Russia went to war with Ukraine, it was fucked. Excuse my French. It was game over. Yeah, just purely on that basis. So from that perspective, you know, you have to look at the whole psychology and think, well, perhaps it's worked out for the best that we do get taken over, because that's what's going to happen anyway, and they're going to do what they want to do, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? And also, he's not been massively, putting money into the club. And as I say, the whole development was stopped. And there's been issues with his visa anyway.
Yeah.
But then you kind of felt him falling back in love with the club all again and all that. So, you know. But listen, guys, I've got to go. My children are
No
looking at me
problem,
right now.
Tony, man. Thank you
Outside
so
the
much.
door.
No, we appreciate
much
you for
love, yeah?
joining us. We got to get you on at least once a week, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, please do.
All right, then, man. Take care.
Nice to meet you, Matisse. Cheers,
Big
buddy.
up, bro. Big up, bro. Big up every time.
But yeah, just if you can, just wrap up on that question there, and then we'll call it a day.
For me, you know, it's difficult to say that, isn't it? Because he has given us so much. But if you look at the last 5 years or so, we haven't competed for the Premier League. We've been all over the place from a recruitment standpoint. And obviously, Mourinho was a big part of that. Someone he was never going to move into a different position. So there was never going to probably be a new sporting director, which we desperately need. Yeah. We haven't had any stability with managers over that time either. Yeah. And we've been progressively declining slowly, time and time again. And that Champions League win really just covered over the cracks. So not happy that he's gone, not celebrating it at all. Going to miss him a lot, done a lot for the club. But maybe this will be a blessing in disguise in terms of the timing. But can't say that yet until we see what these new people 100%. Are made of. They got a lot to do. And they got a lot to do. They better get it right, because if they don't, you know, like I said, Man City and Liverpool already off in the distance. You only have to look at Man United. If they get a sporting director, Ten Hag, they might fix their shit. And then Newcastle are coming up as well. So it's a big job for these guys. So I'm not going to give them credit yet. You know, let's wait to see what they do first, because Roman done a lot. Roman done a hell of a lot. Sorted out the youth academy, brought in the players, put us on this position. So if they do even half of what Roman done in a different way, then they'll be very lucky people.
Chris Ward saying Forza Jim Ratcliffe. Hashtag say no to Boehly and Clear Lake. Do you know what? I ain't going to lie to you. I'm going to disagree with that, but thank you very much for the super chat. From what I see, I like to see a plan. I'm very, very much on Matisse's side, in the way and what he said, I could not put it any better. I want to see a plan of structure. I would like, what's going to impress me most, right? Let's say, for example, Matisse, we didn't have the best window we could have had, but we got the DOF, or sporting director, you want to call it. We changed up the scouting team and all that. We just gutted out the shit in the back. I would be very, very happy with that, because at least I know going forward, all right, smarter investments are going to be made, which is something that Chelsea Football Club need. But Matisse, I'm not going to keep you much longer. We are approaching an hour, but just let the people know what you've got coming up or what you've already put out already. So just let the people know.
Big up the chat. All You Can Eat Chelsea will drop at 10 p.m. after the watch along for Real Madrid versus City on Twitch. So 2 pieces of content there back to back. It's pre-recorded. It's already done. It's going up on YouTube. So good episodes.
I'll see you going through on Madrid real quick.
I want Real Madrid, but I'm thinking City. So we'll see. But it's going to be a great game. So yeah, those pieces of content will go up, and then we roll on to tomorrow. I think I've got an interview with Ben Jacobs from CBS coming up. And he's been covering this ownership situation a lot, so we're going to get into detail, proper detail, one time only on my channel anyway, with all of these different facets of Roman and all these guys. So yeah, I don't really tend to do too many previews, man, because the season don't command previews, bro. I didn't even do a review. I was so angry against Everton. I just stayed on Twitch and was just bare angry for like an hour after the game. I didn't even do the review, but I will do reviews, obviously. But that was the first game this season I didn't do a review for. But previews right now is long. What do you want me to say? Do you know what I'm saying? What do you want me to say? The team look like they're giving up. Do you know what I mean? So they're just going to crawl to the end of the line. I'm going to try and make some more different type of content the day before game that's a little bit more interesting for myself, because previews at this point, I just don't see the point the way this team are playing at the moment. They've been awful for weeks.
No, 100%. And people, listen, before you skedaddle out of here, please make sure you do smash up that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are still on that road to 10K. We are approaching 8K. Help me get there to the 8K, bruv. That is one step closer to the 10. Big up everybody that's in here, everybody watching, everybody supporting the channel. You get me? And as for this channel, just make sure the notification bells are on. I will be going live with Eunice probably tomorrow. And I know Nippon asked when the interactive lives are coming back. I've given so many days and I've not been able to do it for whatever reason. So I don't want to drop any more promises, man. When it happens, it's just going to happen. Keep looking out for it. But yeah, man, big up people, man. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, please make sure